Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 28, Writing Up Qualitative Data, and our topic is First Draft. So the initial hurdle is to overcome the state of inertia when nothing is being written down and get something written without being discouraged by the quality of writing. Here we should always remember that the quality of our writing would improve as we shall work over the draft against the background of our own comments and the observations of others whom we have requested to read our works. Here I remember the words of one of my teachers. You should not be shy of showing your rough work to others, because what we produce in the beginning and what is published in the end are two qualitatively different drafts, and each draft improves with one's own reading of it and the others' comments on different patterns of writing. Once I have a completed draft in hand, I know where it is going. From then on, I start playing with the text, which means I start editing and revising it. The comments of fellow scholars and supervisors, if any, start pouring in. I examine all these comments with unexceptional judiciousness and make changes in my draft. My language also improves. Common mistakes are corrected. Remember, from the state of not a single word written down, I have a manuscript ready for submission. I discovered it during the course of writing up my doctoral work, and later I read about it in Walcott books, that one is able to discover ambiguities in one's work when one reads one's sentences loudly to hear what they are. I was able to eliminate several sentences that appeared to me superfluous and replace my words with more suitable ones. Thus, unless we have a draft before us, our thoughts may jump around in abstract forms. Neither can they be communicated to others conveniently, nor their relationship with other thoughts explored. Walcott writes, I mull things over before I write, and I constantly jot down ideas, phrases, and questions as they pop into my head. But my best mulling is like my best scanning for related ideas and relevant citations in the literature seem to come after I start to capture my thoughts on paper, not before. During the process of writing, we chance upon many new ideas about which we had not thought of earlier. I remember in 1992, as a doctoral candidate about to submit my dissertation, the pre-fieldwork seminar group asked me to speak on an aspect of ethics in fieldwork. The moment this offer came, I told the organizer of the seminar group that I would speak on the role of payments to the respondents in the field work. That time I really did not know what I would say, what would be the line of my argument, except that I would introspect my fieldwork experiences. It was in the course of writing up this paper that I chanced upon my new ideas that I developed in detail. I am here reminded of Howard Becker, who says, writing is thinking. It was observed earlier that the quantitative researchers do not face the problems of writing up that qualitative researchers face, because for them some kind of, relatively speaking, fixed designs of writing are available. For instance, a typical article in physical anthropology will have the following sections: introduction, the review of literature, material and methods, results and discussion, and summary and recommendations. This may also be the list of contents of a dissertation. Although it may be true to some extent, it should not be forgotten that the numbers and the correlations obtaining between them by themselves mean nothing. They need to be interpreted, for which imagination is required. The interpretations are expressed in qualitative terms, for which the same sort of writing that is central to typical qualitative research is expected. The difference between the qualitative and quantitative research with respect to writing is one of degree and not of kind. However, an important difference between the texts that are overwhelmingly quantitative and those that are overwhelmingly qualitative may be noted here. In the former, the findings are of crucial significance, and what is unimportant in these texts is the way in which they have been written down and the style they have adopted. They are largely author-nascent texts by comparison to the ethnographies and pieces of qualitative research that sociologists and social anthropologists produce, which are author-saturated. One cannot fully understand these texts until the reader knows who the field worker was, what were his or her prominent social characteristics, and how did he or she carry out his or her field work. The diaries of the field workers are extremely important for having an idea about why the ethnography is of a particular tenor and type. At the end of our discussion, it is a good idea to complete just one more reflection and action. Now let us conclude the unit. Finally, let me submit that in this chapter I have not discussed the role of theory in writing up dissertations, because that can be fruitfully discussed in the sections on the analysis of data. But it may be noted that the technical terms an author would use more frequently in his text flow from the theory to which he subscribes. My main submission here is that writing is central to the art of field work. Our field notes are the bricks of our ethnographic text. The leaves from our diaries are reproduced in our monographs. One of our main obligations to the people whom we study and the scientific community of which we are a part is to write up the field work accounts as early as possible and as meticulously as possible. This needs to be emphasized because a common observation is that many field studies remain unwritten and unreported. Now let us wind up the session, and we have come to the end of the unit. Thank you very much. for engaging yourself with the Self Learning podcast.